Got three brothers. Thought I had two growing up. We have a brother who we were raised to believe was our uncle, and he's the lead singer in Down Child Blues Band, Chuck Jackson. So we were raised believing he was our uncle because my mother had him when she was 16, and my grandmother took him. My grandmother and my grandfather. She was in their house, and my grandmother was pregnant at the same time. So what happened was my grandmother had a miscarriage, and she was binding my mother. And my grandmother stuck a pillow down her top, and every month she stuck a bigger pillow down there to make it look like she was pregnant, right? Because you're talking like, what is this, 1953? Catholic, Irish Catholic? There's no way my grandmother was letting on that my mother was pregnant. So they took him, and we were raised believing he was our uncle, you know. And because my grandmother was having none of it. Everybody was sworn to secrecy. When my mother married my father tried to get him, and my grandparents said, "We'll drag you through every court in the country. You're not getting him." So my father had to back off. And I remember he would come visit us in the summer, and we would look at him and go, "He walks like us, he talks like us, he looks like us. What the hell is this?" And I remember, so when I was 9, I wanted to be a cop, right? I always wanted to be a cop. And Chucky was 5 years older than me. He was 14, smoking dope with his friends. So we lived in Galt. They lived in Port Credit, southern part of Mississauga. So I remember I was sitting at dinner one night, and I was in trouble with my mother for something, and she was dumping all over me for something. And I went, "Oh yeah, Chucky smokes marijuana." My mother jumped in the car and drove from Galt to Port Credit to confront him and my grandmother. And I remember when she left, my brother and I were looking at each other going, "Why the hell would you do that for your brother? What do you care? He's your brother." And I remember my father just rolling his eyes at us, and that's when we kind of suspected something was up. But when I was 21, they finally told us when my grandmother died. Were we shocked? No. Were we kind of pissed about it? Yeah. Uh, on his behalf. But then again, the other thing was, no way would my mother let him quit high school to become a musician. That was not going to happen. And he wouldn't have had the life he has now. So basically, it worked out for him in the end, Really worked out for him. Because my grandfather, he was raised on the Moro side, which is my mother's family's name, and they were Irish as hell. My uncles all came over and played guitar every Saturday night. My grandfather played the spoons. It was a very musical household, right? So that's where he got the influence when he was a kid. I'll never forget, I think it was around 1968, he asked for an electric guitar for Christmas. My grandfather bought him the electric guitar. And he goes, and he opens it up, and we're all sitting there, and he goes, "Where's the amplifier?" My grandfather goes, "Oh, you know what? Learn how to play that, and I'll get you the amplifier next year." And my grandfather was true to his word, but Jesus, his fingers were bleeding. Trying to play this thing without an amplifier for a year. The next year, he got him the amplifier. So they treated him in a way that my mother never would have done. She would have been harsh, and not harsh, but she was a pretty stern disciplinarian, right? He never would have got away with it. Like if Patty and I had not worked at Bell and went right to Yuck Yucks, my mother would have freaked out. But as long as we had full-time jobs at a Fortune 500 company, we could do whatever we wanted on Friday and Saturday night. They didn't give a shit. I stayed at Bell 22 years, and the last 10 of those years, I was doing Yuck Yucks every night. But the company loved it because they were using me for all their dog and pony shows, right? Every award show, every this, every that. And my last 5 years at the company, I was associate director of corporate investigations. So I was in charge of interrogation and embezzlement stuff because you got 65,000 people. Not everybody's a good, so there's a lot of bad apples.
So, Mike, you really cut your teeth at Bell, like doing like Christmas parties?
No, the drivers' banquets, the award shows, merit award shows, every little thing you could think of, they were wheeling me out for, right?
Yeah.
And that was good because it gave me a starting point for Yuck Yucks. So I had been doing that before I went to Yucks. Plus my brother. I was writing stuff with him, and I was there when he started in can't believe it, man, 40 years ago, in 1981. And he stayed at Bell maybe another year after that. And, because of the way he looked, and It was him and a guy named Sean Thompson. They were really good-looking guys, which was not a stand-up thing. And everybody was coming to see them every time they showcased because they wanted them to act, they wanted them to do this, they wanted them to do that. And him and Thompson took off pretty early. But yeah, Patty quit his job at Bell, and then I was left at Bell by myself, and the rest was history. But the other thing was I was married, right? I married and had an instant family because she had 2 kids. So there's no way I could go from making like 80 grand a year in 1985 to maybe $50 a night at Yuck Yucks. I had a house, I had all this shit responsibility. Roger Chandler, who I love to death, and him and I were really tight. I used to go rafting with him, all kinds of shit. And Roger used to get a big kick out of calling me a hobbyist because I had a full-time job, and he used to get a big kick out of that. He goes, "Well, you know, you're not taking any chances. You got a full-time job. You're not. Why aren't you full-time at Yuck Yucks?" And I went, "Oh, you know what, Roger? Like, we're floating upriver in a rubber boat, and that's your best vehicle. No thanks. No thanks." The other thing was, I said to guys all the time, right? There were guys who bitched all the time, and they always wondered why I didn't. I said, I'll tell you why. Because I'm not under their thumb. I work at a big company. I said, they're not paying my phone bill. They're not paying my mortgage. They're not making my car payment. I said, so I don't have to jump every time they say how high. I said, and believe me when I tell you, that's a good thing in the end, you know?
We go back just a bit though. Like Bell Telephone was after your stint as a cop?
Yeah, my stint as a cop, 10 minutes out of my life. I hated it. You know what happened? I don't know how true it is today. The thing I don't like about cops today is I'll take an older guy over a younger guy because these young guys look like gym rats with attitude, right? When they walk over to your car, they want to get into a situation, whereas the older guys don't. I mean, when I went to Elmer and all at police college, they had resolution courses you took where, you know, if you pull your gun, you shouldn't be a cop. Basically, if the other person doesn't have a weapon and you pull your gun, you shouldn't be a cop. You should be able to resolve a situation, you know, take the tension down, all that jazz. When they found out I wanted to go to Yuck Yucks and start doing amateur night, they hit me with that. You can't go there. We decide what you can moonlight on. You can't moonlight on a job like that. You're going to be around people taking drugs. You're going to be around people who are boozing. And I just went, wow, what a joke. But when I left, I went back to Bell because I'd been there first. And as soon as I went back to Bell, I just started climbing the ladder. So I was pretty happy. But I wasn't feeling, until I started getting professional nights off Yuck Yucks and stuff, I didn't feel like my life was complete. Did it cost me personally? Yeah, because I was away every weekend. And I'm not going to lie, I had temptation in my face, and I took it. And I never should have got married to begin with. Never should have got married. I'm not the marrying kind. I shouldn't have done it. Now, that being said, also I'm 64 years old, and I'm with a 63-year-old woman who looks 40, and it's the first time in my whole life I've been in love. And I'll tell you, you don't realize it until the first time you're actually in love. And now I realize, oh my God, this is the first time I've been to bed with women, Bill, I shouldn't even have been in the same town with. But I am truly in love with somebody and put that person ahead of myself for the first time in my life. She's absolutely incredible. And, you know, I never had, like, the thing I'm looking forward to now is my personal and professional life coming together perfectly because I've never had both at the same time. Never had both. When my professional life was good, my personal life wasn't. When my personal life was good, my professional life wasn't. During the run of the show, all I wanted was out of my marriage. That's all I wanted.